What's up, you guys? This is your video on affirmative and negative words. We basically had a couple of these words that we had already learned previously, but now we're learning how they are connected to each other and how they can turn a sentence or a question from like a positive, and I say that with like air quotes because not necessarily a positive, but when it deals with having a positive or a more affirmative answer to a negative answer versus like I have something or I don't have anything or nothing technically. So this little chart is what's super helpful just because you have exactly what the affirmative is. Algo is something, and then the negative is right across from it for nada. It's not that you are always going to have a negative answer, of course. I might ask you, ¿quieres algo? Do you want something? And you might not want anything. Like maybe you're not hungry, maybe you're not thirsty, and you don't want anything. Then you could just say, no, gracias. Like no thanks. But if you do want to tell them, like, no, I don't want anything, then you have the negative word that's associated to the algo right next to it. These words are mostly opposites. That's basically how we learn them. Like they're going to be paired up. Algo would be the opposite of nada. Alguien for someone would be the opposite of nadie or no one, nobody. You have a couple of different spellings for like some or any, depending on the type of some or any that you're talking about. If it's like a feminine thing, like a mochila, for example, or like a libro for masculine. And then if there's multiples, you put S's, of course. So there are 4 different spellings. There isn't, there isn't an O version, just like in the ordinal numbers, we didn't have the primero. Usually you just say primer, unless if you're saying the word first on its own. So you have that same idea here. Mostly you're going to be using algún if it's a masculine singular thing. Alguno is there because you're going to be saying algunos if it's like a couple of things that you're talking about, if they're masculine, like a couple of books, algunos libros. But if not, you have alguna for one singular feminine thing, and then algunas for multiples. So you have those 4 spellings. Same with what you're going to have for the negative version of it. So if you don't have any of those things, ningún, ninguna, ningunos, or ningunas. And they would just be complete opposites of each other. It's just if I say alguna, my opposite would be ninguna. If I say algunos, my opposite would be ningunos. So we just have to match the spellings to each other. The other one that we have that's also kind of funny is just the o. So it means either or. So if you give someone options for something like, do you want to either go to Six Flags or Universal Studios? You would say, ¿tú quieres ir? Do you want to go? O a Six Flags o a Universal Studios. And they would say, oh, I want to go here. If the person you're giving those options to does not like either of your options, and they say, like, I don't want to go to neither of those places, then they say ni and then ni in front of the options that you gave them. So maybe I don't like roller coasters and I don't want to do Six Flags. I don't want to go to Universal Studios and I'd rather go to like a zoo or something. I would say, yo no quiero ir. I don't want to go ni a Six Flags, ni a Universal Studios. Neither this place nor that place. You don't necessarily always have to say 2 ni's or have to say 2 O's. A lot of times you could just say, same Universal Studios, Six Flags example. I could say, or ask you, ¿tú quieres ir a Universal Studios o Six Flags? I think I switched them around that option. It doesn't matter. Either way, I just said one O in between the 2 options I gave you. You could do that. A lot of people do that too. So if I only have one O, my answer will also only have one ni. So maybe I still don't want to go to both because I still don't like roller coasters. Yo no quiero ir. I still don't want to go a Universal Studios ni a Six Flags. So I don't want to go to that place nor the other place. So just remember, if you say no to something, if there's 2 O's, basically remember to use the 2 ni's. Or if they only used 1 O, then you can just use the 1 ni as well. But it's basically just saying like no to both of the options given to you. The last couple are words that we had come across previously. So we had siempre as like an early Spanish one word, nunca as again an early Spanish one word for never. Opposites of each other. Yo siempre uso Netflix. I always use Netflix. Or yo nunca uso Netflix. Maybe I'm never on Netflix. Yo uso Hulu or something else, right? So always opposite of never. Siempre, nunca. The last 2, we've had también for like ages, but now we have tampoco, which is just the opposite of también, which means it still means also, but like not also, if that makes sense. So it's like me neither. También means like me too, right? Like also, or just the word too. So if I say, if someone tells me like, a mí me gusta escuchar música, I like to listen to music, I could tell them like, yo también, me too, right? Like, a mí también me gusta escuchar música. I also like to listen to music. If someone tells me something they don't like, for example, someone says, a mí no me gusta, no me gusta el refresco. I don't like sodas. I could say, a mí tampoco me gusta el refresco. I also don't like soda in this case. So it's still saying me too, but the negative form of it. So there's a couple of different examples here, as you can see, of how you can kind of make a question and then answer it with the negative. Same thing that we are going to be doing in class. In class, instead, I gave you, this is the same chart. I literally just copy and pasted for you guys here. I gave you these instead, mostly to remind you that because in Spanish, everything tends to like match itself. If it's a feminine thing, make sure all the like adjectives and articles have A's. If it's a feminine multiple thing, plural, make sure they have A's and S's. Same thing happens here. If you have a negative thing in a sentence, make sure that your sentence is formed in all the negative ways it can be. So double negatives are okay. For example, this is going to sound weird in English. If like I'm telling someone or I'm asking someone, did you talk during the test? Like you weren't supposed to, but did you? They could say, no, yo nunca hablé con nadie durante el examen. They would say, no, I never spoke with nobody. Technically, we say anybody in English, but double negatives are okay in Spanish. So no, I never spoke with no one, or with nobody, technically, during the test. There's technically 3 different no's here, and that's completely okay. Because my sentence is a negative sentence, I'm supposed to be using negatives. I'm not supposed to be using any of the affirmative words instead. So even if you don't, and this is kind of what the last section here said. The first one was just building questions, which is what we did on the other one with examples. What you choose to put at the beginning, for example, if you decide to put the word no, or if you don't, doesn't necessarily change much for the grammar. So there's no need to use the word no, just because the second you see a negative word, you know they're talking in the negative form. So just like I said, no, yo nunca hablé con nadie durante el examen. Nope, I didn't talk to anyone during the test. I could have also just said, I never talked to anyone during the test, and you still know I'm saying no to that thing. Or down here, I could say, no, comma, no one wants to eat lunch. I'm telling you that no one wanted to get food, so automatically, even without the word no, you know I'm saying negative. That's something to keep in mind. Whenever we come across this stuff, you are always going to have to keep it in the negative as is, and don't accidentally include any positive words in it. And we'll keep practicing this during class, so hopefully it gets a bit easier as is. But I do recommend looking at page 366 to help you kind of learn those opposite pairs, since we're just kind of learning them right now. All right, I'll see you guys in class.